this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. Today we got quite a few things I want to talk about. I mentioned last week that Netflix has a Cleopatra doing, and they're like, oh, she's black, and in the commercial they have, people saying like, I went to school and they said, no matter what a teacher tells you, she's black. And I want to talk about that because there's some really interesting narratives that have been going around, and there's two particular videos that I saw from TikTok that explain it so well, and they're so well done that I want to show you guys and then add my opinion from there. But I just wanted to show you the videos because I would just probably be copying and not doing as good of a job kind of explaining how they lay it out. So I want to share it with you guys. Also, man, I saw a video about gas station just getting run over in LA because if you steal like less than I think it's like $950, it's a misdemeanor. So there have been these retail mob that have just been crazy rampant, and so the police couldn't do anything because they were concerned for their safety because they were outnumbered. So it's just getting really, really bad. So I want to just show you how bad things are. Like people overseas when I talk about guns or something, and they're like, oh, you Americans, you don't need your weapons and things. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, maybe crime is bad all over in different sections and in places all over the world, but crime is pretty bad right now. Like, we had bad crime, in the, like, 90s and stuff, but this is, we're, like, revisiting it, and I think the lax laws are a thing. I think we gave people sort of the mentality that that this sort of debauchery is just kind of earned, and we can get into that when we get into that segment. But it's just really crazy right now, and we need to just get some common sense, or we're gonna lose everything. Also, I gotta talk about this creepy kit that this father has prepared for his 12-year-old, and I mean, people were talking about on social media how gross and weird it is, and he just doubled down on it too. So I gotta share my thoughts. And also there's a video that I saw, Secular Pro-Life. If you don't follow them at all, they're such a good account, but they replied to a video about someone who was an ex-evangelical complaining about pro-lifers and Christian nationalists, which that word is thrown around a lot. And basically, if you're Christian and you're conservative, they call you a Christian nationalist. And I'm not really joking, because some of the articles that people make about Christian nationalists, it's essentially that. Like, you have basic conservative views and you happen to be Christian. Now, there are some kooky people, I'll tell you that, just to be honest. Let's be frank. But that term is really broad. But I want to show you guys her video ranting about abortion, because it's so dumb. I'm probably not going to talk through it because it's so ridiculous, and I want you to guys get the full scope of it not making sense, and then I will address it. So there's a lot of things I want to get to today. I hope to not really go over, so let's jump into it. But really quickly, please go blackteeners.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos. Please check out different merch at my store, like this Black Tea News mug. Yes, you can get the mug. You can also get the You Are Not That Special mug. And the also have those on a t-shirt as well. The My Money, My Business. And I'll show one more, the Rowan Casey border. Ooh, but the Where's My Pro-Choice Men Are Sus, because that's going to play a role today. The pro-choice men are sus, and we will get into that segment. Also, announcement this week, on Thursday at 7 p.m. I am doing a live stream with another YouTube account. They'll be interviewing me about some of my books that I have written. Particularly right now, they're going, that's a picture with me and all my, oh, I guess I need to take a new picture because I do have a physical copy of my new book. But that's the last picture I took with all my books. That's the 15 published, but I have 16 now. And very quickly 17 as well, because I haven't really mentioned this, but my book of I'm like moving my mouse as if you guys can see it too. My book about my werewolves, Phase of Broken Sky, that sequel I want to have at Comic Con. So very quickly, I'll go from 16 to 17 books published. But I know, I think we'll be talking about Super Kid quite a bit. But you know, I'm whatever questions she has, I'm gonna be answering. So if you're interested in any of that, I already posted it on my YouTube and my community section. But I will post it on Facebook as well, and then have a reminder on Thursday when we do it. Also, after that, on Thursday night, my cousin, he does a TikTok Bible study every week at 8:30. So I'm gonna join his Bible study this week actually to talk about my book. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. So you know, we'll be answering people's questions and objections, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of trolls that pop in because that's a hot topic on TikTok. But yeah, we'll be doing that live there, so you can feel free to join in if you have that app, or they record, so I don't know, maybe we'll share it somewhere else too. What's up? And I mentioned Motor City. I will be in Motor City next month. It's coming very quickly. Um, and the last thing before I jump into my memes and things, please go blacktnews.com. Check out, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. I very much appreciate those who can support in that kind of way. It does help. It costs to stream, run my website, etc. So if you can help with that overhead, I really do appreciate it. If you're watching on Facebook, you can give stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you can do super chats and other things like that. Super thanks and all that good stuff. Thank you for watching, for viewing, for adding people, for commenting, hitting that like button, smash button. Thank you guys. Very much appreciate it. So, I do have, I don't have a meme. I have a video that I wanted to share about Dylan Mulvaney. Someone put this together and I thought this was pretty funny. And I wish it was true, but I think there's so many things about this done right. So that's why I wanted to share this.
Be a passion for me. I think
Let me go back.
Mom one day. That's going to be a passion for me. I think seeing a trans woman as a mom is going to be very important.
That's just absurd. You are a biological male. You can't get pregnant.
When I first saw that, I'm like, is that real? I had to watch it back. I'm like, obviously this can't be real. But I just love the look on everybody's face.
I want to be a mom one day. That's going to be a passion for me. I think seeing a trans woman as a mom is going to be very important.
That's just absurd. You are a biological male. You can't get pregnant.
So yeah, it's really absurd. What I like about it so much is the back and forth on the women allies who are just looking like, how dare you say something that isn't supposed to be said? And on the Today Show, man, they I think that's where they bullied Macy Gray into like backtracking about womanhood and making her say womanhood is a vibe. I think that was today. Unless it was good, might have, I don't know, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but these woke networks and talk shows that really just keep continuing to push this is so weird. Like Dylan Mulvaney is going around saying he wants to be a mom one day, and he doesn't have the specifications to do that. So you can't. And what is so wrong about men wanting to be fathers? Why are you trying to fit the role of mothers? Men and women are different. They have a complementary nature. You know, sex is binary. You have male, female. Both of them produce something to create that child. And to just exclude your role as it should be. Now, I hope this person doesn't ever have kids, not in the mindset that he's in, Lord willing, deliverance and all that good stuff, but can't be a mom. Can't be a mom. Not now, not ever. And for anyone who entertains this, because he said this, that the first time I saw him, be like, why are you focusing? And the first time I saw him is when he was on that Ulta podcast, and it would start making it the rounds, and he said on Ulta that he wanted to be a mom one day. And even if people don't say anything, he still has like a ton of people, 10 million followers. So it just kind of needs to be addressed and talked about. But we just need more people to be like, no, you are not a woman. You're a man. Side note, I'm going to write an article about this, but I saw a progressive pro-life person who's complaining about religious pro-life people and saying that basically, or conservative pro-life people, that you basically have to kind of cool it on your other values, particularly on the trans stuff, because it'll just turn people off, and if you want to win people in blue states, you got to back off, basically. And I'm like, okay, but they'll call me a transphobe if I just say something like Dylan Mulvaney's a man. Like, that's something like objectively true, that he's a man. And if that makes me a transphobe, I'm like, where's the middle ground? People will literally say, if you don't accept the term cis, or if you're offended by it or whatever, then you're just transphobic. Then you're just anti-trans. So where there's no middle of the road for anyone who's just like, I don't want to play the game. If you're like, I don't want to play the pronoun game, you can live your life, but I'm just not going to affirm you. There's no place for you in this sort of activism world. I know there's trans people that are just like, okay, you know, I want to live my way. If you don't validate me, that's what it is, what it is, but I did this for me, and you live out your life. There are people who aren't into this drama, and I feel kind of bad for them and how toxic the community is, but just in general, how the atmosphere is if you don't affirm, then they come at you. So I had just replied to that thread as of now, but like I said, I'm gonna, it'll probably be the next article that I write on the site, but I see a similar sort of mentality for both, and it's like both of them exist in the realm of rejection of objective reality, not even objective morality, just objective reality. And that's why you see so many pro-choice people who'll be like, it's a parasite, it's a clump of cells, and Stacey Abrams is like, it's not a heartbeat on a machine, that that's just a sound manufactured by men who want to control you. I'm like, you think the sonogram or the do you think the ultrasound, all those things are conspiracies? How deep does it go? Did they pay off the doctors and your OBGYNs and like all that because you don't want to acknowledge that there is a heartbeat and you hear a sound, or that it's alive, that it's growing? It wouldn't grow if it weren't alive. It meets all the characteristics of life, you know. Like someone told me the other day, like it's not fully human. Like, what does that mean? What species is it then? And they just kept saying weird, silly thing after another. I'm like, either it's you can't just say it's not fully human. You could say it can't survive on their own. Okay. That doesn't make them not alive. That's how the conversation originally started. They're like, it's not alive unless it's like 20 weeks and it can live on side of its own, by its own. And I'm like, viability means that, I mean, fetal viability does have a special definition, but viability means that you're able to survive in the environment you're in, right? And so a fetus is supposed to be inside of their mother's room, and when they're ready, they'll leave, they'll let you know. But that's where they're supposed to be. They're not supposed to be somewhere else. So there's that, but the idea that they're not alive until they can live outside of that doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, if I chucked you in outer space, and you can't survive there, or drop you in the ocean's depths, or put you in a house that's on fire, does that mean that you weren't ever alive to begin with because you couldn't survive? So conceptually, it just doesn't. I think viability is such a dumb argument. I was doing a live one time, and I'm representing the pro-life side, and a pro-choice person came in and mentioned viability. I'm like, I think viability is dumb. So I made the pro-choice person start arguing for I don't even think they were for viability themselves, but they were trying to like explain that because they brought it up. I'm like, I think viability is totally dumb. I don't buy it. I don't like it at all. It doesn't make sense to me. Like I blatantly think it's stupid. I do. I don't want to get to full rant about that yet right now, but anyway, there was someone else who I kind of found digging through that thread a bit. It led me kind of on a pathway to someone who I do follow on TikTok, and they're pagan, and they're very, very pro-life, but they're pagan. And this person I've replied to, because she essentially believes like Christians should, if you can't shut up about your Christian beliefs or whatever, especially on topics about sexual immorality and LGBT stuff, then just don't even be a part of the pro-life movement. We don't want you. And so I very respectfully replied and told her why that was short-sighted. And so I'm not going to get into everything that I said, but that person tweeted a video of Dylan Mulvaney being confronted by James O'Keefe. And she said that, well, she thought it was cringe. I'm not going to say it wasn't cringe, but she framed it as a grown man talking about James O'Keefe was harassing a woman in an elevator. And I'm like, they're both grown men. What do you mean? What do you mean it's a grown man harassing a woman? I'm like, how can you even say that? How can you say that? And someone in the comments was like, oh, so there's a man approaching someone, and a man is approaching Dylan in an enclosed space and it's making him feel uncomfortable. Because Dylan doesn't care if you don't want him in your bathroom. He wants to go in. And you're a bigot if you don't let him. So, I just thought the comment was interesting, but I'm like, if I can't even acknowledge that he's a man, and you guys want me to pretend that he's a woman, and that James O'Keefe is harassing a poor innocent woman, I don't know how we bridge that gap. Like, we can still keep fighting for life. I think that's the more important thing, as far as I'll take my allies where I can get it, but I can't just drop reality. Like that's a more people arguing whether, especially with the arguments around personhood and stuff, you know, I can talk about, address all that stuff, but there's reasons why people have made questions about, you know, why this, you know, this is life here, that whatever. I think you can break all those down, but I think that confusion there is more sensible than looking at Dylan Mulvaney and be like, yeah, he can totally be a mom one day, and that poor woman being harassed in the elevator. That's crazy. I'm sorry. So, you're just gonna have to suck it up if you don't like it. If you don't like people on the right who are pro-life talking about, you're just gonna have to suck it up. I'm not saying that James O'Keefe should harass people on elevator, because he talked about a story that wasn't relative to Dylan himself. I think it was a prison story or something. I don't know if it was a bathroom. If it was a bathroom, I can see it more, because Dylan wants to be in bathrooms, but he didn't necessarily have to go after Dylan. It's just, that's kind of seemed more clickbait. And I do like O'Keefe. What he did wasn't necessary, but to frame it as he's a grown man harassing a woman, that's crazy. That's crazy. I can't lock arms with you there. We can lock arms like at the abortion clinic and encourage people to choose life. I can't lock arms, but if we can't lock arms because I can't follow you on the Dylan is a woman train, then I guess we just can't work together. And I think that's very unfortunate for the babies. Anyway, look out for that article on the website. Moving on, I want to show you guys this video of LA really quick before I move on to the rest of the things. Um, I already mentioned this, but people in other countries are like, "Oh, Americans and your guns and other things like that. We got rid of ours and we're all good here," which is not true in some places. I saw somebody left a comment from South Africa, and they're like, "Don't give up your guns. We're," and they said, "We're just helpless against criminals right now." And she began to talk about all the things that were wrong, and I was like, "That sounds awful." But some places where they got rid of guns, their violent crime or wasn't super high or whatever after they got rid of them. So there's all different kind of factors that go into this stuff. It's a more complex. I think everybody acknowledges it's a bit complicated, but it's probably a lot more complicated than people give it credit for. But if I say, "Hey, citizens don't want to be unarmed," and people will be like, "Well, if we got rid of the guns, and the criminals wouldn't be armed either." I'm like, they're criminals. How do you propose that we get rid of their guns right now? Because they're kind of just letting them roam about doing stuff. So I don't see them just signing up to give up their guns. They probably got illegally in the black market is somewhere. So I just don't see that. So it doesn't make sense to me that if you have police that, and some places are not timely responding, and they respond to distress, right? So they can respond and then prevent the distress from continuing if they're very speedy, or they happen to be there kind of when it's occurring. But they respond, right? So they're not always there when you need them, and especially when a situation first like happens. So it's good for people to be able to protect themselves. Your self-preservation is in your own hands, and firearms is just one of those ways that you can do that, especially if you're female and there's a power difference for you there. I've seen too many videos like in cities where men just attack women, and there was one video with like 3 girls this guy was attacking 3 women, and they were trying their darndest. They were really fighting him, really fighting him, but they were not strong enough to really defeat him. But they tried. But it's just disgusting, the sort of attitudes and mentality that people have today. It's just a disease of lawlessness. But in California, well, this happened in LA, and if you steal something and it's under $950, it's a misdemeanor. So people are kind of empowered to go steal stuff because they know as long as there's a certain limit that they're not going to be in really too much trouble. And then they have such weak like prosecutors and DAs and stuff that the police know that they're going to be back on the streets. I saw one report about Amazon. There'd be trains like carrying Amazon packages, and people would like get on the trains and they'd rob the trains, and they would take what they wanted, but some stuff they'd be like, "Oh," and so it was just like a crater of like, I don't know, discarded like Amazon packages and stuff still inside. And I'm like, now this is something that is affecting everyone across the country, because this is their people's stuff that's not being delivered to them because there was a theft train. And the police were talking about, they catch a criminal, but the criminals will tell them, "I'm just going to be back on the street." So there's a really big problem when you have people who know that they're not going to be punished. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this video and take care of my buzzing phone that I did not turn off. I wonder if it's my dad. We'll see who it is.
Video into our newsroom shows hundreds of people crowding an Arco near Central and Alondra. After smashing the door, dozens of looters flooded into the store, grabbing anything they could. LA Sheriff's deputies tell us there were thousands of dollars worth of merchandise stolen and 1,000 more in damages. This as deputies deal with numerous street takeovers throughout the city. Deputies say they couldn't intervene because of safety concerns as they were very outnumbered. Only one arrest was made last night.
Yeah, so That's insane, and that's not new. That's been going on. That's been going on. And I guess this stuff has predated, George Floyd stuff, but like during BLM riots, you would have a lot of mass sort of people coming in to steal stuff. You saw people going into Targets in mass and stealing stuff and then going out. I kid you not. If anyone has this video, please send it to me. I might have it liked somewhere deep within my likes on Twitter or somewhere. I don't know. I know I've shared it or mentioned it or talked about it or something. I might have even put it on the show. I just don't know where the clip is. But they raided the Cheesecake Factory, and there was during the BLM riots, and there was a woman carrying and it wasn't a full cheesecake. There was like a slice or two missing, but she's just carrying her cheesecake and she's running out with the rest of the hoodlums during the crime spree. I'm pretty sure it was a white woman who did it. Why is that relevant? I don't know, wanted to throw it out there in case someone was like, oh, it was a black person. No, it wasn't. It was a white person, but a white woman. And she seemed kind of, I don't know how big she was. But it was amazing in a terrible way. I'm assuming that the cake just wasn't, that maybe someone else had a slice, or maybe she decided to have a piece before she took the whole thing. Theft it makes you hungry, I guess. I don't know. But it was shameful how many people were going out just to commit crime without remorse, I guess. I pray that people had remorse, but it's not enough to have deterrence. It's not enough to have people be punished. You do need those things. You need to punish, and you need to punish. In this case, we got to get to a point where we're punishing harshly so people learn to not do this, and the punishment will be a deterrent from other people doing it. But there's just such a lack of morality. You really need to teach people that it's wrong to do this, and people will get it in their heads that they're not really hurting someone else, that there's not really a victim. But if you do that to certain stores, or just any store, they report the losses, and sometimes there's Walmarts that are closing down. I think in Washington, maybe in other places, that because they just can't keep going through this cycle where people keep stealing all this stuff, and they report the losses and their store loses, and then that's, a loss for the community because they don't have access to that stuff. There's a loss for the workers there. So it affects more than just you. But it is wrong. Even if you stole from someone who had a lot of money, and maybe what you're stealing here or there, they don't notice, or they don't notice for a while, it's still wrong to do that. And there might be someone watching saying, well, why? If they are not aware of it, then what's the harm? You're still a bad person. It's still immoral to covet other people's stuff and to steal their stuff. And it was amazing to me how many people were just willing to go out there and do that stuff in mass, still willing to do it in mass, and aren't just utterly ashamed of themselves, or they're not concerned their granny's going to see them on TV and just chew them out. And I'm just like, where are the morals? But I do think that BLM and the narrative surrounding that time did fuel people with an entitlement to actually commit harm and to commit crime. And I've shown this example. I've talked about this many times, but there was in Kenosha, there was a man who had a fire extinguisher, and he was in his 80s, and they came and they knocked him out, and the person who was recording it just started screaming, and they tried to help him, and then she told the people, there's a lot of black people, and they're like, she's like, don't you guys see what will happen when everyone sees this? And she's just like, this is wrong. And then there's a girl, I'm not exaggerating. But she's like, no, he was laying females out with the air. That's exactly how she sounded. And then someone else was like, no, you don't understand. Because all these black men, they're out here terrified of these police. And I'm like, if you were that terrified, why are you committing mass crime? You're that terrified. But they put these big chips on these kids' shoulders. So they're willing to go out there telling themselves that this is the language of the unheard, the cry of the unheard, and that they deserve to do this because society has been X, Y, and Z to them. And it's just really wrong. So we are all the way screwed right now as a society. All the way screwed because we have a justice system that seeks no justice. Man, I mean, imagine if you were a shopkeeper trying to save your store. And let's say that you shot someone. I think it's more likely that that person would be prosecuted than any of those people who were obviously, because they only arrested one person, but that person would probably be back on the street. I mean, they were stealing. Probably everybody was stealing less than $950. But if you defend yourself and defend your property, they don't even think you have a right to defend your property. They don't believe in property like that. They believe they have the right to take your property. Or maybe not the right, but they're going to take your property. But you protecting your property? Mm-mm. And during the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, Don Lemon went on a big rant about, this idea of protecting your property and protecting your street. And I'm like, bro, you're rich. You have people, security in your life or whatever. This place was being devastated, and he went there trying to protect property. And we can get back and forth on whether he should have or he should not have done that. But this attitude, this communist sort of attitude that people don't have the right to their properties and can't defend it, all the, it's just it's not right. It's not right. We're just again, we're not at a good place. We are not at a good place. So at the very least, I'm not gonna we shouldn't allow people to disarm us. Yeah. Because it is genuinely dangerous out there. Genuinely dangerous. Okay. Moving on. I told you guys last week about how Netflix is doing a documentary on Cleopatra. And I guess other queens or whatever too, but they're like, featuring black queens. Big problem though. Cleopatra was not black. And so I want to show you guys these two videos. One I came across, I think before we were leaving for church yesterday, my sister showed me a video. One video with a woman talking is the one my sister showed me, and I'm like, oh, that's really good. And then I showed her this other video that I'm going to show you guys, and she was just like, because he just went in. He went in. And so I wanted to show you guys these two videos because I think they put it so well that it was best to just kind of show you, and I'll add my commentary if I have anything else to add. But I think they raise such interesting points that I think people need to really kind of sit down and analyze why are we at this point where we have to go into history and edit history. And it's not just like black people doing this. It's the LGBT community is really doing it too. Like, what do you mean such and such wasn't transgender because they wore a tunic or something? So people are trying to retroactively edit history to fit their different agendas and stuff. But this is a blatant example, and there are others. So anyway, let me show you this first video, and then I will show you another one.
I beg of you, can we put on our common sense cap? Can we put on our common sense cap and have a conversation about this? And I'm saying this out of love. I'm old, so I do the heart like that. Queen Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz had 500 years. 500 years separated her between her and her black ancestor, alleged black ancestor. She was born in the 1700s. This alleged black woman, who by the way was a mistress of King Alfonso, existed in the 1200s. We can't be that goddamn desperate to claim blackness in this white woman. We gotta stop this. Me, the black woman sitting in front of you, am more white. I am closer to my white ancestry than she would have been to her alleged black ancestry. Why are we so desperate to make her black? What? I don't need Queen Charlotte to be black. Why? Because I have Nefertiti. I have Queen Nzinga. I have Hatshepsut. There were black queens for real, for real. We don't need this to happen. I don't need Beethoven to be black. Do you know why? Because I have Chevalier, an actual black man that was really a composer and a musician. What? By the way, they've made a movie about him and I cannot wait to see it. I'm so excited to see this. I don't need Babe Ruth to be black. Why? Huh? You wanna know why? Because I have Jackie Robinson. I have Hank Aaron. Actual black men that were playing baseball. I don't need Shakespeare to be black. I almost got in a fist fight with a man at a bar, and I'm being so serious. I almost got in a full-on fight with a grown man about Shakespeare being black. Somebody was trying to convince me that Shakespeare was black because he had that earring in his ear, and I'm being so serious. This is the shit that y'all be saying. I don't need him to be black. I have Dumas, the writer of The Three Musketeers. His mother was black, and he acknowledged his blackness, by the way. Y'all, we have people that looked like us, that represented and acknowledged their black ancestry. We have people that did stuff. We don't have to look for ourselves in whiteness. It's a disease at this point. And I'm so passionate about this because there are black people out here that are looking for themselves in whiteness. You're not going to find yourself, baby. You out here trying to make Queen Charlotte a black woman when she had 500 years separating her and her alleged black ancestor. Not when y'all sit up here on TikTok and look at these biracial people and accost them and demand that they show pictures of their parents and their grandparents to prove that they black. I'm not going to let you get away with it. Not over here.
So many great things about that video. Dumas also wrote The Count of Monte Cristo. So just a whopper of a talent. What you mentioned at the end about people who are mixed, interracial, or even like people who are light skinned, there are so many videos that I've seen on that app where people are just toxic to interracial families, particularly people who still like their white moms. So for people to be so obsessed about like finding just a little droplet, like, I don't know, the one drop rule or whatever, way back in, so that you can claim someone. But if someone has a mom and a dad, and then you want to question how that someone's blackness, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. But this idea that there's so many people who need to find that validation or something in people who weren't black, didn't acknowledge being black, but just literally weren't black. It's really crazy. It doesn't make any sense, especially because there is such rich history. Even if you don't know how to trace it way back when in history, just looking at the Black American history that we have here, like I might mention like, oh, you know, if I say like I'm proud to be black or something, like, oh, don't, you know, race, what? I'm like, people are proud to be Irish, people are proud to be Polish, people are proud to be Italian. Like if I say I'm proud to be black, it doesn't mean because I'm down with Beyonce or or Jay-Z or some, like that's not what I mean in the least bit. I mean that when I look back at American history and the underdog story of, though I'm not a fan of Obama, just like how we got to that point of being enslaved to coming up to taking the top spot, you know, hearing out stories and people like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, you know, and the stories that Jesse Owens and Jackie Robinson and the first black congressman that in the 1800s, not in the 90s, in the 1800s, and some of their stories that could be told that aren't told. You know, I have a shirt that says "Be better, not bitter," and I like that shirt a lot because I don't see, when I read history and look at these people, I'm like, these are people who just wanted to create a better world for everyone. You know, they had to be firm at times and stuff, and push people along to a better pathway forward. But there was still optimism. I see such bitterness today. I just anger, just outrage. And not people who really want to build, people who really want to destroy, you know, reconstruct. Excuse me, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of a lot of so-called leaders today. And the song "Lift Every Voice and Sing," which I've always really liked. There's a lot of controversy surrounding it because it was played at the Super Bowl as the Black national anthem. And just to be frank with you, I have an article about this on blacktnews.com. I'm not going to argue with you guys about it right now, but yes, people have been calling it that, and I've called it that. I think I've called it that longer than I knew the actual name of the song, which is "Lift Every Voice." It's not because I want to go to Wakanda or start my own nation or something like that. It's not because I think that there should be two national anthems. It's just kind of more like an affectionate nickname. It's not like it was never to create this sort of animosity that exists. And I do think that people are using it to kind of put in a wedge between people and like things that are supposed to unite us, like the flag and the 4th of July and Star Spangled Banner. I do think that's actually a thing. I think the amount of animosity and pushback that the ferociousness which some conservatives push back against it, I think are kind of unhelpful. But for that balance, please go check out that article because I don't really want to jump into it. But there's two lines in the song that I really, really love. I do like the song as a whole, but it's sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us, sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. So even though that we've been through all of these harsh and horrid times, we've persevered through it all, through our faith in God, you know, that we've been brought to the present time. And because we've made such progress, we can have hope for the future because we know where we've come from. So I want people to have that optimism. I know I talk about a lot of dark stuff on this show, including the segment that we just had before, but about all the crime. But I think it's important to still hold that optimism and remember the dream and the promises of things that were in the Declaration of Independence and the greatness of our Constitution, and feeling grateful that it applies to everybody, you know, at least because it didn't always. And it's a good thing that we can continue marching forward. And there's still so much that we need to do, that we need to fight for. So, and it's okay to acknowledge that America isn't perfect. But there's so many people who want to burn it to the ground, who want to burn down some things that have made it truly great, to build some kind of, I don't know, dystopian fantasy. And I really don't appreciate it. But there's so many things that you can look back and be proud of. So why are we so thirsty for validation in these people who aren't us? It doesn't make sense, especially since, like, if there's things that you appreciate about people who like she mentioned Babe Ruth, you can still like Babe Ruth and respect Babe Ruth without being like, oh, he was black or something. You can still like Peter Parker, for example. I don't like how there's like a bazillion Spider-Mans, by the way, but people really are, you know, push Miles Morales, even though I think the Eric July has a bunch of content, I think, on Miles Morales and stuff, but you know, Spider-Man will always be Peter Parker to me. And I'm not saying they can't do all the different universes or whatever. It is what it is, but Spider-Man will always be Peter Parker to me. And people always loved Peter, because they related to Peter Parker, like Superman. There's a lot of things people can relate to, wholesome sort of whatever, but he's still, godlike as far as his powers and all the other kind of stuff. Like the Marvel's characters versus DC characters have always seemed a bit more relatable, or at least, I don't know, that's what the commentary that was always kind of surrounding it. But Peter Parker, he was a guy who did a wrong thing, had to live with the consequences, talking about his Uncle Ben, and had to take that lesson that his uncle tried to teach him: with great power comes great responsibility. And so he's just trying to live up to that promise and that oath, that code, especially because he remembers what happened when the time that he was selfish, that he lost someone who was close to him. But he's, couldn't afford the web cartridge fluid stuff. And he started as a young, teenager going into adulthood and stuff. But there was, he had girl trouble, had to pay his bills. There are things about him that really related to people. People like watching Iron Man because they like the cars, they like the tech, and it's escapism. But they look at Peter Parker because even though he has fantastical powers, he's still so relatable to them. I'm not saying people can't relate to Tony Stark on some level with different struggles that he has, but people like the stuff they can't have. So you don't need to be the same skin color to relate to people, to like their story. So I don't understand the need to do all the cultural appropriation into people who just aren't black, or even changing characters and palette swapping them, now right now we got the Black Little Mermaid coming out, the Tinkerbell. And so many people have said, I don't care that she's black, I just want her to have red hair. I don't want to get too big rant about that today because I've ranted about it too many times. I just don't get it. I don't understand the route that they went with that. So I'm going to show you this other video that's specifically about the Cleopatra thing. This video made me wince. He went off. He went all the way off.
African Americans born in one of the richest countries in the world using the millions of dollars from Hollywood to spread cultural appropriation propaganda. Yeah, you guessed right. Netflix is making a documentary about Cleopatra in which she's presented as black. Producer of the documentary is Jada Pinkett Smith, who you might know for her husband's public violent outbursts.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
Look, I'm not opposed to the idea of actors playing people of different race in fiction. That is fine. But don't pretend that this is a documentary. Just look at it.
This is a woman exercising power.
It's possible that she was an Egyptian.
I imagine her to have curly hair like me and a similar skin color.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.
I especially appreciate the sources of this documentary. Some woman's grandmother who doesn't like official education. Nice research, Netflix. This is how Cleopatra looked. This is how she looked. This. All of this were made in her era by people who have seen her. Who the hell are you? Oh, and this might be my favorite part.
It's possible that she was an Egyptian.
It is possible she was an Egyptian. Possible. Let me translate what it means for you. It means we have tons of proof that she was Greek. She called herself Greek, others called her Greek. Her whole family is Greek, her name is Greek, but that doesn't feed our narrative. So we'll treat possibility as an equal to the fact, because that's how documentaries are made. The fact that black Americans try to claim people of other races as their heroes and role models means only one thing: their internal shame of being black. They don't believe in their own heroes, they don't like them. That's why they try to claim yours. But guess what? Needs of black Americans are not above the needs of Greeks and Egyptians. They have no right to play with other people's history like it's a toy in the hands of an entitled brat. Just look at this. This is average salary in Egypt, $586. And this is average welfare check in America, $617. This means that the black person in the United States is entitled to more money monthly just for being born in America than an Egyptian that has to work his ass off for it. That's how privileged they are, but it's still not enough for them. They also need representation in your history. Egyptians and Greeks never asked for representation. They are proud of their history, and rightfully so. They're not trying to steal culture from others. Their countries were dominating the world for longer time than the United States exists. Stop culturally appropriating their history. This is a theft. And Jada Pinkett Smith, keep Cleopatra's name out of your damn mouth. Thank you.
That was so savage. That was so savage. So, when he got to the part where he said that black people appropriate and take other people's culture because they don't like their own heroes, that like stung. And man, I don't want that to be true. And I don't feel that's true for me, but I think it's obviously it has to be true on some level. Like there's so many untold stories that you could tap into, but to take all these people in history and try to steal their culture and to just lie and to skate by like, oh, she could have been black, like that. I think it's gross that they're like passing this off as some kind of documentary, which people make documentaries and it's so, or docuseries or whatever, and it's so loose and fast with the truth. It's just really crazy that people don't care about the truth at all. But why is it that we do this? Like I can't tell you. I can't tell you. It's really unnecessary. It's really unnecessary. When The Woman King came out, there was a controversy surrounding it, and people who saw it, which I didn't see it yet. I said I would watch it, but I just didn't have the time. Were saying that, oh well, no, they were still into slavery. I'm like, okay, I think the issue was that they were like in and had to really be made to not do it. So there's some important sort of details that they omitted or didn't want to put in or whatever. And my thing was like, why not just, and it was two white women apparently who wrote the script, and I'm just like, well, woke white women decided to make a story about black people and they just like decided to craft something different than the truth. I'm like, we didn't need your woke story. And some people just wanted to boycott it because the Klan, the tribe who they were, doing everything on was just, they were brutal and whatever in the slave trade. In my opinion was like, they could have just been, I like history. I think it's fascinating. It's very complicated. And if it just kind of was what it was, and they told a more accurate sort of piece of history, I still think that would have been interesting. And I think there probably would have been less controversy about it, and still probably would have watched it and been more likely to have gone and seen it, because I think most people who are mature can recognize that life is messy and life is complicated. And it is today, and it certainly was back in the day. So but at the same time, people do take, creative license with stuff, but this is supposed to be like a docuseries, and what is wrong with Jada Pinkett Smith and Netflix for producing this? It doesn't make any sense. That's why sometimes people are like, I know what I'm talking about. I saw a documentary. I'm not joking. People say that. Like, did you see the documentary and such and such? Everybody who makes something has some kind of agenda that they're trying to push. Even if you watch something and it's somebody on your side, you got to go in understanding. I think the great thing about like Matt Walsh, for example, his "What is a Woman" thing is that the concept is really so simple, and you just kind of allowed people to let themselves look ridiculous, and I think that was pretty much probably an accurate representation, because everyone in real life who tries to argue about that stuff basically has the same sort of point of view. But there's other like documentaries and stuff, and it's like, this is obviously like toward a particular side, and they're omitting certain stuff. So just be aware when you watch certain things that it's just not true. By the way, I do want to say thank you for the stickers in the super chat, KT Rainbow. Thank you very much appreciate that. See, Tina in the chat said, yeah, he went off. He really went off. But yeah, not respecting their heroes and stuff. People complain about that, like in a modern sort of superhero movies and stuff like that. But thinking about it like in a historical context, perhaps that's true as well. Or maybe a lot of it is just kind of out of ignorance and people not knowing certain stuff, you know? And maybe there's too many people trying to, one, validate themselves. Like, you are who you are, and other people who are who they are. Like, just live your life to the best of your capabilities and don't try to find validation in other people. But if you're learning about things, it's probably not good to wait to learn it from a movie that comes out. Like, go read a real book, you know, a real history book. And you can learn yourself. Not everything needs to be adapted to film. I think it's cool when things are adapted to film. And I like watching historical pieces and drama and whatever. And when I watch something, I will go and I'm like, you know, Googling information while I'm watching things. Because I'm like, is that true? And I'm looking and reading and I'm researching. So it is like a catalyst point, can be for a lot of people, but it's well within your power to go research different, you know, African tribes or heritage or folklore or other historical people who maybe you don't see get a movie made all the time. It's well within your power. Like, people are like, we need to learn more stuff in school and blah, blah. I'm like, as a child, there's only so much time you want to spend in school. But as an adult, you have so much freedom to learn whatever the heck you want. And instead of watching like dance videos on TikTok, you could, I don't know, go to history TikTok, or you could go to the library, you know? That's on you. That's well within your power. But as far as like modern art today, people are accused all the time of finding validation with white superheroes. Like, it kind of needs to be a proven concept with a white character, and when there's enough sort of acceptance there and notoriety, they're like, oh, well, let's just swap them and make them like black. And then they get mad when people are like, that's not how they're supposed to be. Well, that's not how they're supposed to be. And I think that's true that people do, whether it's subconscious or whatever. But sometimes I think it's just about taking a model that they know works of like someone iconic, and they want to give that representation. So they just take a character and they're like, here's a shade of brown, and there you go. And I think that's lazy. I think that's sloppy seconds. And but I do think maybe a lot of that is just the studios are afraid to lose, to try new things. And there's so much stuff that people won't green light. It's crazy. At the same time though, they'll blow money on dumb stuff, on dumb decisions. Like, it still kills me that Star Wars, the new ones with Rey, that this is a franchise worth billions, and they just did not have a plan going in with like Rey's lineage. I can't believe they're planning to make more Star Wars with her, by the way. That's I thought there were all these I don't know if they were rumors or more like high hopes that they would just reboot the whole thing, but like, we're not, they weren't it for me. They were not it for me. No sirree, Bob. But they'll make really, really boneheaded decisions, you know, and fly by the seat of their pants or whatever with all that money. But they're like, I don't know about greenlighting this new thing with this black character. What if they don't like it? You can blow like hundreds of millions of dollars on a movie, take that risk, but you can't like do a pilot episode or something to see if people like it. Seems kind of weird. Seems kind of weird. Eric July has some really good videos about tokenization of different characters. I don't want to go too long into that conversation today, so I'm gonna recommend his takes on it. But I going back and forth with certain people about stuff, it does kind of seem like that holds weight. And I'll give this example, like he would complain about, Eric July was complaining about Sam Wilson taking over as Captain America. Now that's something totally that happened in the comic books and stuff, so it's like accurate, whatever. But he would say, well, Sam was already his own original character, so it's not an upgrade for him to become Captain America. It's a downgrade because now he's no longer, he's still, Sam Wilson is still original character, but the Falcon was who he is, or it was who he was, and now he would be Captain America. Still, he's throwing away something that was him, and now he's taking the mantle of someone else. And so I'm like, well, that's an interesting point. And so people started going back and forth with me, and they're like, well, it's different because Captain America is like, the symbolism, it's more important, blah blah blah, etc. Blah blah. I'm like, but okay, but you are like validating this idea that Sam Wilson is now more important because of this mantle that was started by this white guy. So I'm like, you know, so you're just kind of proving Eric's point. And I'm not against Sam playing Captain America. I think that was obviously the smart thing, I guess, moving forward, if they wanted to keep that character around. I think that's kind of what, you know, I don't know how well like that film and stuff is gonna do, but and I do like the actor. I'm not gonna watch it though. You guys know I don't watch that stuff anymore. But and even when people were like, no, it should have been Bucky, I'm like, Bucky still had like stuff wrong with his mind. Sam's been with Cap, like that's his friend. I get that, but you know, Sam's been with him. Like it makes sense that he would entrust Sam. To me, so I went back and forth with some fans. I'm like, no, Sam, out of the two, it made sense to be Sam. But people thinking he's now a bigger deal because he is Cap, it just kind of, it did lend credibility to Eric's point. I think it did. And then the conversations just kind of continued, and the more they talked, I'm like, you're just enforcing the point, the argument. But anyway, just some things that we need to, I don't know, keep in mind. But those are two really good videos, and I wanted to share with you guys. Next, I gotta mention this really creepy tweet thread. Matt Walsh, I think I first saw him retweet it, and he was like, I didn't retweet this because I thought it was a parody. Or at first when he saw it, he didn't mention it because he thought it wasn't real. And it was real. And so this person is a former candidate for I think Congress in Washington State, and gosh, this is weird. So one second. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Sorry, I saved it to a different place, I guess. There we go. I found it. So, here we go. So his first comment was, Amber and I have compiled a true emergency kit for Brianna and her friends. Plan B, condoms, pregnancy tests. Just found out that I can add Narcan for free to that kit. I hope we will never need to use it, but it will be there. You can see if you are eligible. And he got a response, and he said the MAGAs are really worked up that my wife and I have chosen to destigmatize reproductive care and teach our children that these products simply exist in modern life. I don't want my kids thinking they can't come to us. Kids that are prepared for life do better. Keep being mad. So here's some context for this man here. His child is 12. That's the context. His child is 12. So that's creepy. I told my two older sisters about that, and I think I told my sister Katrina before we went to church, and she's just like, I really wish you would not have told me that. That is so creepy. And then I told my oldest sister that today at lunch, and she also agreed that it was really creepy and sick. But she said, particularly about the Plan B, she said she knows women who took Plan B, and it was so awful, so painful, that they were like, I would have just rather had the baby. Because they said it was so awful. And I wish that we'd have more narratives like that, saying such stuff, because people, I don't know how many people have that experience, but this kind of stuff is no joke. But these sorts of things for your 12-year-old, and saying that they need to be prepared. Now, my parents, they really, really worked hard to protect our adolescence. Not make us naive. Like, my mom would see something on the news and be like, you see these kids? They were dumb and they listened to the stranger, and this happened to that happened to them. That's why, when we say come in and the street lights are off, you need to come in, or you need to not talk to strangers, blah, blah, blah. Like, my mom was there. We were well aware about the evils of the world. We were not naive. But they did try to protect our innocence and our adolescence. Now, something my dad did, or one of his rules, or the rules in the house, and you guys are going to hear this and you're going to think this is probably crazy, but when we couldn't wear like fingernail polish until we were like 10 or 11 or something like that. And then the next year we could go get our ears pierced. I know most people have the babies get their ears pierced, but we didn't get ours pierced as babies. And the year after that we could get our ears pierced. And then we weren't supposed to wear makeup until we were like 16. And I'm not, because those things are bad. If you're wearing nail polish, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to get your ears pierced or to wear makeup or whatever, though I'm still not terribly fond of it, but it's just kind of like a part of life. And I did wear makeup earlier in life because we were traveling and we were singing, and we were wearing makeup for like CDs and stuff. If you see, oh gosh, so we did an album back in the day, my 4 oldest siblings, and I was like 13 recording some of those songs. And I guess it's like 13 when I did it. But the photo that I have on the cover and the back cover and stuff, I was 14 in the photo. I don't have it pulled up. Let me see if I can find one while I'm talking to you guys. But because I don't look 14 in the photo, but I've always looked a bit older. Like one time I went out to eat with my sisters at this restaurant, Bennigan's, which like no longer exists. But man, Bennigan's was really good. They had such good egg rolls, and just their sampler was just the bomb. That was our spot after like church and stuff. We go to Bennigan's. But that one time they're like trying to ask me like, oh, what kind of drink did I want? And I'm just like, I'm like 14. And they're like, oh, wow. They're like, don't go to bars. Because they just thought I looked so much older than I did. So I've just perpetually had the same kind of face through life. But at least now people say I look younger than I am. Because I'm 33, for those who don't know. Sometimes people are like, oh, you give me such hope for the young people. I'm like, I'm not as young as you think I am. So I'm very sorry to burst your bubble about your hope. Gosh, I'm trying to find it. Well, I know if I go on Facebook, I'll be able to find it, but We'll just leave a little mystery there. Maybe I'll post it later. When people watch it back and I repost this part section, I'll probably have that in there. But anyway, I don't look 14 in my photo. As a matter of fact, I use it for my school pictures. I didn't go pay and get school pictures. I just use my professional ones for when I was 14. But the reason why my dad had those sort of goals that we could have as we got older to have certain stuff at certain ages was to just make it so that we didn't grow up too fast. You know, again, it wasn't because nail polish was bad or getting your ears pierced was bad, but he just didn't want us to want to be grown, like to enjoy our childhood, to not go out and be fast little hussies or something, you know? And you couldn't have a boyfriend until you were like 16. My sister did break that rule, my oldest sister, but it was a secret, like that people didn't really know. But my dad did take her aside and was like, you know, you're the oldest, and I can tell your sisters one thing, but they're going to look to you and you are going to influence them. So at least for your sisters, please don't, you know, please wait to get a boyfriend and stuff. So she was good mostly on it, but she was kind of, sorry about that. She was kind of seeing someone in school, but for the most part, she was like, I'm the eldest, let me set a good example. So there's so many people out in the world who want to do wrong by your children, and it is important for you to try to keep them young and innocent as long as you can. Not naive. We weren't naive. We definitely understood the ways of the world, evils in the world. You know, as PKs, you see more than most people. So we were not naive children, but we did enjoy our childhood, and we didn't grow up too fast. But this idea, so many people have it in their heads that their kids, and I'm talking about young kids, like you can't stop them from going out and being promiscuous and doing stuff. And I'm like, your young kids? Like if we would have had fast friends, you know what we would have had? No friends. We just would have had no friends. Like, no, you can't hang out with such and such because she do X, Y, she in the streets. Like you sometimes you got to separate your kids from people who would, you know, influence them poorly. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's your kids that are influencing people poorly. Like I saw somebody reply to this this tweet that he had, and it was like, reason 906 something why my kids aren't allowed to sleep over people's houses. And I feel you, because one, I probably won't allow my kids to sleep over people's houses like that. But I slept over at one friend's house, and it was because they were taking me to the SAT the next day. And we were, you know, our families knew each other and stuff and knew me for a while. And most importantly, my dad really could trust me. But, and he was still kind of iffy about it too. I'm just like, do you want to get up in the morning and drive me to the SATs? And he's like, nah, I don't want to do that. And that was, but I could go to some parties, but it was like, oh, my dad's picking me up, you know? And you know, we're like, can you go over to the friend's house? My dad's like, let me pray about it. And you got to watch your kids and observe your kids, but this idea that they're just going to do it, I understand you want your kids to be prepared or to act responsibly if they're going to do it, but at the same time, are you sure you're not implanting like just a normalization of this stuff in the atmosphere? Like there's one video that I saw on TikTok of this young girl. She was 17, maybe going on 18 or something. Or maybe she was 18, but the caption read, she was showing her pregnant belly and she was kind of dancing. And she said, you know, when you love kids, so you get knocked up right out of high school or something, or knocked up in high school. And people were so upset. There were people who congratulated her, but people were upset, and people were now she was engaged to her boyfriend and her families all liked each other or whatever. And it seems like it was a supportive atmosphere or whatever. But what they weren't upset that she was like sleeping around with her boyfriend. They were upset that she was young and gonna be a young mom. They're like, oh, I've seen you're just ruining your life, and who's gonna actually take care of the kid? And what really bothered me, I'm like, the baby exists. What are we supposed to do now? What are we supposed to do now in this world? Just like off the baby? I'm like, you think she's too young to be a mom, but she's not too young to in the life of her child. She, I'll it's morally murder to me, so I'll just say it more plain like that. They're too young to be a mom, but they're not too young to murder. That's wild to me. That's wild to me. But no one was like, you shouldn't be sleeping around. Like, if you're too young to do, to do the deed, don't do the deed. Nobody was like that. Nobody was like that. And it had like over 2,000 comments. I'm going through, and I didn't see any. Maybe someone was in there somewhere, but I was just like, I don't see anyone discouraging like the sleeping around and stuff. Nobody. So, and a lot of people won't today. And if that's where we are, that's where we are. But sex is grown folks' business. Grown things happen when grown folks do grown people business, and they make babies. And if you don't want to do that, you need to keep it in your pants. Like, it's not a game. It's seriously not a game. But this person is massively pro-choice. And there's like some context behind that. I do have the tweet as to why, or one of the reasons, the tweets as to why. But his wife had a medical emergency, and they had an abortion. I don't know if it was an actual abortion or just sometimes people have miscarriage and they call it an abortion. But why does the GOP think that my wife should be dead? Now, that's a huge accusation. Okay. Why do they think that since she was unable to carry Addison to term without dying herself, that they both should die? I made the choice as Amber couldn't do to an incoherent from blood loss. I would do it again. So she couldn't make the decision, like, and so he had to make the decision. And so his profile is like 100% pro-choice. And just to make this clear, because some people just don't know, I guess, like every state, even ones with very strict abortion laws and bans that don't like abortion, every state has carve-outs for the life of the mother. Every one. The only ones that might not is because they just have no restrictions on abortion and obviously don't need it. Everyone. And I can post a link or whatever, but everyone has carve-outs for the life of the mother. There was one site the other day that I went to that they had like going through all the laws of the states. Equal Rights Institute did a video about it the other day too. So everyone believes the ethics are not the same as someone deciding to do it for like essentially backup birth control. Let's be for real. Versus there's a medical emergency and you have to do some kind of triage situation to decide who's going to live and who's going to get the kind of priority care. The ethics of that are totally different. And I don't want people to feel like I don't want people in that situation to be made like they're some kind of moral monsters. And I don't want people to feel like they have to fight for abortion on demand for any reason, including spiting your boyfriend because they broke up with you because they realize you cheated on them and they're not the father. And I'm not joking. I've heard plenty of stories of women who've had abortions for that reason and men devastated because women do that, or it was their baby, but they cheated on them, so the person wanted to leave, and so they aborted their baby. Like, really, really cruel stuff. Women do not just have abortions because of life and death situations, but I'm sure you guys know that. But yeah, but this I guess this has really shaped his mentality here. But this is a crazy tweet. This is a crazy tweet. Again, this man, his daughter is 12. His daughter is 12. I would not want my child hanging out with his children. I wouldn't want my kids in their house. I wouldn't want them to be alone with dad like this. Again, there's nothing wrong. He's talking about teaching children and preparing them, and it's fine to prepare them, but you also don't want to, like, he's talking about destigmatizing. You shouldn't destigmatize things related. They say reproductive care. You shouldn't destigmatize things associated with abortion, even if you're for it. Even if you're for it, it should be option Z. It should not be normalized to the point of option A, the first thing that people think, to the first solution, or it shouldn't be in round 2 or round 3, or option A and B and whatever. Like, if killing someone is an option that needs to be on the table, it's got to be last resort. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. Maybe you can disagree and you're like, it's just her body and her choice. It's not, though. There's a body in her body. So we can't just forget that. We can't just forget that. Gosh, just protect your kids' adolescence. This is the last thing I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna move on. And I'm gonna have to table the other video until tomorrow, because I did not keep my promise with not going over, but I don't want to go into 2 hours. The last thing I want to know is that there's a detransitioner, part of the Rainbow. She founded the Rainbow Coalition Project, but I heard her talk on Allie Stuckley's podcast. And Allie Stuckley, on her podcast, I don't remember the detransitioner's name, but she mentioned that she was really uncomfortable with how she was sexualized in society, and that was one of the reasons why I guess she had internalized sort of misogyny or whatever, and just kind of wanted to hide and escape into a man's body. And so she did that, but it didn't ultimately end up protecting her, because I think she was still like assaulted and stuff as a trans man. So she eventually detransitioned and found herself in Christ and stuff. And it's a good, testimony story if you guys want to seek it out on Allie's podcast. But I mentioned that to say people have to be really, really careful about how they treat their children and sexualizing them too early, and what they introduce them to too early. And people talk about sex education, and they want to teach it K through 12. As Thomas Sowell points out, if it was just about teaching your kids certain things about their body, it wouldn't need to be K through 12. Why do you need something every year? It doesn't take that long to learn about your vajayjay or your dingleberries. It doesn't take that long to do that. But the idea from these instructors is to normalize those things with your kids. And sex is normal. It is, but sex is not appropriate for all ages. I'd argue that I think it's appropriate for people outside of high school. But we know that teenagers do have sex. Even kids as young as his daughter will do that. But we should fight for a world where that is not normal, and that it's people who just want to destigmatize all this stuff. We should not, because what's the option if it's not stigmatized, then it's just normalized. And when it's normalized, we just accept that they're going to go out and do these things, and you'll continue to have rates of teen pregnancy and et cetera. Well, it doesn't, right now, I think teen pregnancy or people having sex or whatever, kids having sex, that range, that goes up and down or whatever. But man, when you meet some young girls who do those things, there's always like devastating kind of backgrounds associated with that stuff. My sister one time posted on social media. I don't know if she posted it or something. She saw it on social. No, she didn't post it, but she saw this post that someone wrote about, asked the question like, when did you lose your virginity, and do you regret not waiting? And so many women said that they had regrets, or would have waited, and that they, they made attachments to the wrong guy, or, you just gotta, my parents didn't do everything right. They are good parents though. And, I'm not saying you got to do what they did, but the idea was still to protect your kids' adolescence and make sure that they're not growing up too fast, trying to be too worldly or too fast themselves, or, teach them about consequences of life. Do not destigmatize, promiscuity. And people will be upset, that I said that, but at least for your kids, cause you don't want to be a young grandma, do you? And I don't think, now maybe some of you guys are more comfortable with being the grandma of a deceased child that never made out of the womb, but I don't think that's I really don't want that for you. And I hope you guys don't want that for yourself. I really hope that's not what you guys want. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I'm gonna table the other video that I had, because we are late we're past the hours, but so I'll save that. But in the meantime, I encourage you guys to go to blackteennews.com, check out different articles that I have, videos, etc. Please make sure that you guys pre-order my book. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. It deals with theology, sure, but also deals with biology, and it deals with philosophy and the law and all sorts of different things. There's such good information in it. So it's worth getting, even if you're not like religious, but most people, I guess, are a bit religious. So I highly recommend it, especially since people are determined to talk about it anyway. I saw a video on TikTok where someone, it had nothing to do with religion, It was a pro-life video, and it was a video mocking people who always bring, like, you say one thing and they were like, what about the foster kids? It was really short, and it was like a trend, following the path of a trend that was on TikTok. And someone commented like, life's what did they say? They said like a really common, they're like, God killed his kid. That was their comment. God killed his kid. I'm like, you mean Jesus, the 33-year-old man who laid down his life and said, no man takes my life, but I lay it down, who was in agreement with God the Father? That's what you're comparing to abortion? Okay. And again, no one brought up religion. I just threw that out there. So even if you're determined to keep secular arguments, there's going to be somebody who's like, well, life starts at first breath because of Genesis 2, even though it's not in there and doesn't say that. So I just wrote a book to debunk most of their garbage, so you guys can, it covers more than their just normal silly objections, but it goes far deeper. So you can pre-order that on Barnes & Noble, or you can pre-order that on Amazon. If you go to blackteennews.com, that's the cover page right now, so go ahead and make sure that you pre-order that. I'm actually like cutting a commercial for it right now. And if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blackteennews.com/donate. Cost stream, run my website, all the good stuff. So if you can support that way, God bless you. Just looking at your comments really quickly. Okay. I will see you guys tomorrow. God bless.